Bro, I'm telling you, Justin Gaethje is the baddest man on the planet. Yeah, didn't you meet people from the Russian mafia?
So those different, I guess, clues led us to believe that they were Russian mafia.
Tiger Talk, Season 2, Episode 4.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tiger Talk, where we bring you the faces behind Fort Hays State. I'm Omar Alvarez. I'm joined by Brian Groth. We have probably one of the most interesting men on the planet, Dr. Robert Lloyd. Dr. Robert, how are you?
Doing well. Thanks for the introduction.
Yeah, I remember the first time we did it. I said the smartest man west of the Mississippi. So
yeah.
I think he's now the smartest man west and east of the Mississippi.
Okay.
I'll take your word for it.
Right on. So, man, it's been a long time since I've seen you. Wow. What's new?
Well, I think we're hopefully on the way down from everything going on with coronavirus, and hopefully in the fall get back to normal operations and hopefully have a deeper appreciation for human interaction.
Yeah, no kidding. The plan is to go back to in-person classes in the fall, correct?
Dr. Mason sent an email, actually just sent an email today that said we're going to go back to normal operations starting June 1st. We're kind of phasing out all of the COVID restrictions with some exceptions. And the idea is that in the fall, we're going to have sort of an adjusted way of life, but still get back to campus, get back to normal operations.
I like that.
Still try and maintain distance. Masks aren't going to be required, but recommended. Sorts of adjustments that we'll make to still keep us safe.
How about the seating? Because I know in like the one class I have on campus, we're seated every 3 chairs.
Yeah, my understanding is that we'll go back to full capacities in the fall.
That's awesome.
That's
I really
awesome.
like to see
I'd
that.
love to hear that.
I was watching YouTube, and then it was a CNN. They said that some medical expert said that Michigan should shut down because of the surge in cases. So I thought we were getting better. Maybe. Are you somebody that believes that the COVID numbers are inflated?
I tend to think I generally tend not to believe government numbers.
Mm-hmm.
One, it's so hard to get the number right anyway.
Right.
And two, you have to question what's the interest of the government to put the numbers out. So I guess I'd question the competence of some of the agencies putting it out.
Fair enough.
But I'd also question just the feasibility of doing it.
Yeah. So my sister works at a hospital in Kansas City. Well, she works in Leawood, I think, and she works in the trauma department. She's a surgical technician studying to be a nurse now. But they had a guy come in with I don't know if he got shot or he got stabbed, but they were doing surgery on him, and he ended up dying. He had COVID in his system, so they had to rule it a COVID-related death. And she said that's kind of the trend there.
Sure,
if
absolutely.
If they have COVID in their system, or if they have the virus, even if it's non-related, like if you get shot in the head and you die, they have to rule it a COVID death.
Correct. Yeah, so that's why it's hard to actually gauge what the numbers are. But to me, what matters is the trend. Is it going up? Is it going down? Is it stagnant?
Are we flattening the curve?
Right. Mm-hmm. And so those are the big questions. So the actual numbers aren't as important as the trend, in my opinion.
So what course are you teaching in this spring?
This semester I'm teaching business policy, which is the culminating course
Yep, I'm taking
for
that
the
right
BVA.
now.
It's one of my favorite classes to teach because I get to throw everything at the students. Presumably they've had accounting, marketing, management. It's like, all right, here we go. Let's test all that.
You see, I didn't know you taught that course, or else I would have taken it with you.
Well, that class fills up fast. There's kind of a dynamic that there's sections for online students and there are sections for on-campus students. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the online students get left out in the cold because all the on-campus students take online classes, and so they manage it in a way that I'm teaching an online class, so if you're an on-campus student, you probably got directed into one of the other sections.
Yep.
Okay.
I got Dr. Is it Sivak?
Dr. Sivak, yeah.
Sivak.
Dr. Kunal Sivak, yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
He runs a simulation, which I'm going to do next year.
Yes.
Best advice, any students out there listening, if you have a teacher who does simulations, the best thing you can do for yourself is read the manual. They're nothing more than algorithms. You've got all whatever the discipline is, they're trying to teach you the concepts, and it's just a computer. So they're trying to tell you how to make business decisions in this case. Well, there are algorithms that teach the students certain things. So read the manual. They're basically telling you in code what the algorithm is going to tell you. So supply and demand, marketing conditions, economics, all of that is baked into how the simulations go. So whatever the class is, there should be a manual for it. Read the manual, and you will vastly improve your outcomes.
That's good advice. I don't know how my group's doing in the simulation. I think we're doing all right. I think I'm not entirely sure, but that's awesome.
The other thing you need to do is specialize. Here's one of the mistakes students make. You're in a group project. Is a group simulation?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what happens is you get in the group simulation and you go to the library and you say, well, what decisions do we need to make? Okay, let's make these 10 decisions. And you have to all agree on it for the most part. That's not the best strategy. The best strategy is, particularly in a business strategy class where you've got students from all the different disciplines, you've got accounting, you've got finance, marketing, management, all of them, is to say, okay, you're a marketing person, you make the marketing decisions. I'll make the capital decisions, you make the management decisions. Whatever your specialty is to divide those up. That way, you're not focused on, I guess, trying to build consensus, which is where most of the conversation goes. You're giving each person their comparative advantage in whatever that is.
Right.
So if I'm a management student, I've got a cursory understanding of finance. But if I'm a finance student, I know how to do all the calculations that need to be done. And so when I took business policy at Fort Hays 20 years ago, and that's what we did. And it was very successsul.
Interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
I never thought about that.
Yeah.
I'll have to present that to my group.
So best advice: specialize, read the manual, and you will absolutely stomp your competition.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
good
very
advice.
competitive,
Yeah.
so I like to doing that.
Yeah. I teach several simulations in other classes, and that's my advice for my students. And about a third of them take it, and every year that third of students, they squash all the other students.
I mean, it makes sense because you're making the decisions by yourself, and then you're reviewing those decisions, and then tracking your progress,
Right.
knowing where you lack, versus trying to keep track of 5 or 6 different things as a group, coming to consensus on one.
When I was a student, our team had so all the teams. My decision impacts your decision, which impacts the other student. Our stock price was so off the charts that the other teams couldn't do anything. So our teacher pulled us out of the simulation, and we became industry consultants, and we got extra credit for teaching these other students about cash flow and marketing, and most of that was attributed to my partner Ben, but he's the one that came up with these ideas. He's like, I just read the manual. If we do this, this is going to be the impact. So I was just along for the ride, but I got the benefit of my partner's expertise. I made a couple of decisions around production operations. That was like the only decision I could like really focus on.
Right.
And he was making all these decisions about marketing and finance. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to focus on this. And he was steering the ship otherwise.
Holy cow. I didn't even know those things came with a manual.
Oh, yeah. If not, Google it. And there are all kinds of YouTube videos about how to – all these simulations are out there.
I know the like I'm taking prod ops. No. Yeah, I'm taking prod ops and production operations management, and they have simulations, and I just Googled it because I got so frustrated of trying to figure it out by myself. You have to you're an independent contractor, and you're trying to stay below you're trying to be at 90% of your budget and
Right.
like crack a profit. And I just got so frustrated because I was like 5%, 95% below or at budget rather. And then I just kept failing, and I got like a 50 and then like a 20%, and then I just Googled it, and then I got 100%.
That's right.
Yeah.
Use your resources.
Yeah. I tell you, I'm just ready to go back to on-campus classes. I can't do this online stuff.
It's
especially, so I'm going to grad school.
Okay, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I got accepted as a GTA, so that helps too. So
In which department?
College of Business.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah, so I originally got, my first offer was for the College of Informatics.
Okay.
With Dr. David Schmidt, I think. So he'd offered me a full-time GTA position, and then I applied for the College of Business. They interviewed me, and then I got a full-time offer from them too.
Okay, so working for Arcobi.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So I don't know who all I'm going to work with, but
All
I'll be
right.
there. So Dr. Lloyd, you're an intelligent guy. Did you struggle at all in grad school?
Not in my doctorate, but certainly in my master's I did.
In what areas?
Mostly the hard subjects like accounting.
I can't.
My brain just can't wrap around the concepts. I've got a faculty friend who says that accounting is the language of business.
Mm-hmm.
I fundamentally disagree with that. I spent 6 years in a corporate environment and very rarely talked accounting. We talked economics.
Okay.
For example, I've never walked into a room and said, here's our balance sheet, here's our financial statements. What do you guys want to do? It's like, no, here's a deal, here's the opportunity cost, here's the supply and demand, what do you want to do? And so I never was attracted to accounting.
Yeah.
And so it was always hard for me.
Right.
Now, if I have students, if I advisees come in and say, I just don't like stats, I don't like accounting, like, okay, that's fine. It's fine not to like something. Here's what you should do. Act like you like it. If you act like you like something, what are you going to do? You're going to show up early, you're going to stay late, You're going to read everything, right? So treat the subject as if you hate, like, don't treat it like you hate it, treat it like you like it. And that was my love-hate relationship with accounting. There was a manufactured love there because I knew that would translate into behaviors that wanted me to do it. And so I passed the accounting classes in my master's with okay grades, but got to my doctorate, and I at that point in my life I was ready to be going back to school, and I ate everything up. We had suggested readings, and your doctorate is a lot of reading and a lot of writing. There are no tests. It's all about trying to process information and being good consumers of data. And I read everything, probably 90% of everything that was assigned to me or suggested to me, which is not always the case, because I love being a student. I just love the challenge of learning, and now I get to kind of impart that sort of fire to my students.
Yes, and it definitely translates. I don't know. I feel like from the only other podcast we have, I feel like at that point I was just skyrocketing, and then talking to you was like, wow, this is awesome. Yeah. So going to get my master's, and then who knows? Maybe I'll get my PhD. I'll be a Dr. Lloyd.
That's right.
I'll be a genius.
I like it.
So do you? I don't know how the GTAs work. Do you work with any GTAs?
I have several each year. Usually, what happens is the GAs are assigned to a department, and within that department, they will help with grading. They'll help with teaching classes. It really depends on what their interests are. If they want to teach classes, I'll try and find ways to bring them into the classroom. Most of the time, the GAs are grading. Or what they also do is service projects or research. I've had several GAs that I've worked with that have, they've made contributions to manuscripts, and as a result, I've listed them as second or third author on that particular project. So it really just depends. If they want to get into education, I really encourage them to do everything. You don't really put grading on your CV, but if you could put, I was in the classroom giving a lecture, that's pretty big on a CV. Also, publications. If you can get a publication early, that really helps if you want to be long-term in that particular field.
Right. Okay. Right on. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, but I'm also nervous because I feel like now you're up in the ante. I'm going to grad school.
That's right.
Things going to be tougher. I mean,
I'll tell you that at every level, that feeling doesn't change. From junior high, you go to high school. All right, I'm going to be a freshman. Got to take algebra. Got to take calculus. And then you get there, the first 30 minutes, you're like, I'm fine. Go to college, first 30 minutes, I'm fine. Go to master's and doctorate, the exact same feeling. After 30 minutes, you're like, okay, I can do this. You get the syllabi and you read it and like, okay, this is doable. So just get through the first 30 minutes of grad school, you'll be fine.
Yeah, I feel like with every challenge I've had, I always overthink about what it actually is, and when it finally gets to me, I'm like, yeah, I can handle it.
That's right.
So when you walked the stage, when you got your PhD, what was the feeling like? Because at that point obviously you're not done learning, but done with school.
Well, I had to finish mine fairly quickly. I was working at Bethel College at the time, and I had finished up. I got the job offer at Fort Hays, and the dean of the College of Business came to me and said, hey, look, we'd really like you to come on as an assistant professor, but you don't have your doctorate yet. You don't have your doctorate until you finish your dissertation.
Okay. And
then the degree is what they call conferred. So basically, Fort Hays said, if you confer your degree by August 1st, you become an assistant professor. If not, you're an instructor. And the difference in pay was substantial. And then also another couple of years of trying to progress to the next rank. So it was huge. It was more than just a little bit of money. So I went to my dissertation chair and I said, I got to have this done by July 31st. Most of the time in your dissertation process, it's a lot of waiting. I submit my draft of my dissertation, and then I wait 6 weeks. You work on it for 6 weeks, you send it back, you wait 6 weeks. So it's a lot of waiting.
Right.
And so I told my chair, I said, I can't wait. Like, if I need this back next week, like, I know you got priorities, but this is worth a lot of money to me. And so he did. And I was in Colombia at the time. And I told my wife, like, just give me 2 weeks and I'll hammer this out. Like, I had final revisions. So I go to this small cafe in the middle of Colombia, the middle of the tropical area of Colombia.
Okay.
I go to this cafe and I told the waitress, I said, I'm going to be here for 8 hours for the next 2 weeks. I said, I want you to bring me a cup of coffee an hour, not more, not less. Don't feel like I need more, but I definitely need it. I said, if I get too much, I'm gonna get wired, and I'm not gonna think straight. I said, but if I don't have enough, I'm going to slow down. So just one on the hour every hour for 8 hours. And then, of course, at lunch, I was able to order my favorite Colombian foods. And then after 2 weeks, I was done.
What are your favorite Colombian foods?
Oh, goodness. Ajiaco is my favorite. For those that know what ajiaco is, it's a soup with chicken in it. Not unlike there's a Mexican dish called pozole.
Oh, yeah. I love me some pozole.
Without the chiles.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
They actually take it down a level. They put cream in there, so it like really
sounds Americanized.
Yeah. It's fantastic though. Every time my mother-in-law comes in, what do you want me to make you? It's ajiaco or ceviche, which is cured fish.
Yep, I like ceviche.
Ceviche is good. I've had ceviche all down the Latino corridor there. Mexican ceviche, Costa Rican ceviche, Colombian, Peruvian. I actually tend to like the Costa Rican ceviche. I don't know. Maybe it's just because they're the closest to the ocean.
Right.
Not that Mexico doesn't have oceans or Colombia doesn't have oceans, but the whole country is like in the middle of the ocean. And they're just, maybe it's the kind of fish too, but ceviche it's fantastic.
Now, what is the biggest differences that made you like the Costa Rican ceviche?
I think the type of fish. Peru had a fresh mountain trout that they used. Colombia uses, I want to say, a tilapia. I'm not sure what type of fish, but for example, Mexican ceviche will have aguacate in it.
Yep.
Peruvians will have tomatoes in it. Costa Rican is just pure fish, and so that's what I liked about it.
Right on. Well, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back and speak more about ceviche when we come back.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel angry or depressed most of the time? Do you feel neglected or unloved?
Do you feel you attract people who tend to be compulsive or abusive?
Do you have money problems because of someone else's drinking?
Are you afraid or embarrassed to bring your friends home?
Do you feel that if the drinker loved you, she or he would stop drinking?
If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
More than half of all adults have a family history of alcoholism.
Not everyone trapped by alcohol is an alcoholic.
Families and friends are suffering too.
Al-Anon
and Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
Welcome back to Tiger Talk, where we bring you the faces behind Fort Hays State, here with the smartest man east and west of the Mississippi, Dr. Robert Lloyd. Man, we had some good conversation talking about ceviche and pozole. Now, when you have your pozole, is pozole, can you have it any time of the year, or do you keep it seasonal?
You know what? It's by default that we've got a family friend. They make it for us every Christmas. So I actually associate pozole with Christmas time.
Yep.
New Year's Eve.
But at the same time, there's random times when my family will make it whenever we have our gatherings, and I'm not going to turn down some pozole.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. That's probably my favorite Mexican dish is pozole.
Yeah, I love it. I have some frozen pozole in my freezer, actually,
Nice.
just in case of emergencies. Wow. So I know you talked. You drink. Do you drink scotch?
I used to.
Okay. Do you not drink?
I do drink. I just
Okay.
I got to get up early now these days, so I don't drink it as much. I actually got a bottle of Irish whiskey for my birthday.
Okay.
Which is in December, and my first son was born in December as well.
Oh, right on.
So I was like, all right, I'm sitting here. I was like, when your baby's first born, they don't sleep at all. They sleep, they're up all night, or they'll sleep, but they'll sleep for 2 hours, then they'll be up, then sleep for 2 hours. And I was helping my wife with the duties, and I was like, I want to have that Irish whiskey, but I know I got to be up in 3 hours. So it was kind of a love-hate relationship for a while, but by the end of January, I was done with the bottle, and it was fantastic. I hadn't had a bottle of whiskey in my house for a long time. It's usually a glass of wine, beer,
So what kind of whiskey?
I used to be a Scotch only guy,
Mm-hmm.
and then I went to Ireland and I toured the Jameson factory.
Okay.
Oh, that
And
sounds fun.
man, it's tough to beat a good Irish whiskey these days. I don't care much for Canadian or American whiskeys, just the taste of them. There's a different sort of process that we use here. Nothing bad about it. I just prefer Irish and Scotch whiskey.
Have you ever heard of Knob Creek?
I've not.
I like Knob Creek. It's pretty good.
Would that
whiskey.
bring me over to the American side, you think?
It might. It might. Let's Scotch. I love. Have you ever had Belvini?
Not had Belvini.
Belvini's really
I go
good.
for the classics, Johnny Walker or Jameson usually.
Okay, right on. I know we talked about tequila, or I know you said you can't. I mean, you can't do tequila. I like sipping on tequila. I got. I'm wanting to buy this. Have you ever heard of Tears of La Llorona?
I have heard that. Yeah.
The tequila. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find a bottle so I can get it because I like. I don't know. I like nice.
That's a very Mexican name for a tequila.
Tears of La Llorona.
For those that don't know Llorona, she is the boogeyman in Mexican folklore.
You see, I've never even heard the story.
Basically, the story is this: there's a guy, and this goes all. I've heard different names for it throughout South America.
Mhm.
In Mexico, they call it La Llorona. In Colombia, they say La Llorona. Basically, if you get too close to the river, this spirit will drag you into the river called La Llorona. She's always crying, and it's a story to keep kids from going down close to the river.
Interesting. You see
My mother-in-law used to tell the story to my wife, and it would just terrify her. And today, you don't mention Llorona in my house. And I can't see her telling that to her grandchildren now, but that's the story that terrified. In Puerto Rico, they have different folklore. The chupacabra.
Yep.
I talked to a maid in Quito, Ecuador one time who swore she saw the chupacabra.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So there are stories all over the world on mythical creatures, and in this case, folklore. Every culture has their own folklore.
It's really crazy how those mythical creatures. Like for me, I had a month where I was just scared of the. Have you ever heard of the Slender Man?
No.
Yeah. The Slender Man. He's there was a game that was pretty viral. It was like a phone game, computer game, or something like that. But you'd walk around in the woods at night, and you find these little notes on trees, and then if the Slender Man gets close to you, you hear like radio static, and then everything gets all muffled. Apparently, the Slender Man, whenever he gets you, he takes you to another dimension.
I see.
And he's very tall and skinny, and his arms are misshapen and of different proportions, and he's wearing a suit, and he has no face. And for some reason, I find that terrifying.
Yeah, I would too.
So there was a documentary, and I watched it, and I was so paranoid. I'd come home late at night, like at 11, 12 o'clock at night, when I lived back in Dodge, and I would just be terrified. I'd run to my front door. Yeah.
I used to watch the show Unsolved Mysteries as a kid.
Oh yeah.
And that just the music from that it just sends chills up my spine.
And the voice.
The Robert Stack is a classic, deep voice, very scary. He could be talking about a missing bottle of paint, and it makes it sound, epic. So yeah, Robert Stack's voice is classic from several movies from the 60s, but they cast him into this role, which was perfect for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember watching a lot of Unsolved Mysteries. I think I'd get terrified whenever there'd be like an unsolved murder case. I'm like, oh man, he's gonna come kill me now. Yeah.
Yeah, the ghosts ones and the miracles one, those were interesting to me. But the ones that were like, okay, this is a human being, this is documented, fact. But I generally stay away from any of the occult type practices or conversations. Even even in college, I was like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about ghosts. Don't want to talk about any of that.
Why is that?
Well, just as a Roman Catholic, if you read the Catechism of the Catholic Church, it talks about the occult. Trying to contact spirits and all these things.
Right.
And there's a couple lines in the Catechism that says basically, the occult, don't mess with it.
Right.
That's in summary what it says. For example, Ouija boards are.
Those are insane.
They're pretty scary.
Yeah. So my mom is a director of religious education for Dodge City, and there was something called the Charlie Challenge. It was something to replicate like what you do with the Ouija board, and somebody at the intermediate school, at the middle school, got possessed, and they had to call in the exorcist. And my mom was in the office at the time, and I guess the person walked in, and the way she described him was he was dark complected like me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if it was a guy or a girl. Anyways, dark complected like me, I guess. But he was originally he was dark complected like me, but he was just pale, and his hair was just lost all of the sheen.
Sure.
Yeah, it was, and his eyes were black as ever, as if he hadn't slept in 3 years.
That's right.
It's insane.
Well, the devil's real, and if you find ways to invite him in, he'll find a way to get in. When I go through Toys R Us, I used to go through Toys R Us, I'd see the Ouija board and I'd stick them on the top shelves behind other games.
Yeah, so I guess Brian, do you remember they gave a Ouija board to the band in Dodge City? Or somebody gifted a Ouija board for like your Secret Santa in Dodge.
I heard about that.
That's what Matthew was telling me. Well, I guess they put it in the band director's name was Mr. Richens.
Yeah.
They put it in his car, and he threw it away, or somebody threw it away and ended up back in his car somehow.
Yeah, I just don't mess with it.
Yeah, I think my mom scared me enough that I'll never ever mess with anything like that.
Sure. Yeah, that's the right way to approach it.
Yeah. So you been keeping up with any sports? Do you watch any sports?
I do. I'm a Royals fan. We've started off pretty well. I did watch the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, it was kind of scary. And it's a real experience to see your team get dismantled like that. But
by a 43-year-old man.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah, that's right. I mean, I like playing sports. I've been trying to get back in the gym and just to get just get in shape again after being a little bit slow in Corona times of Corona. But
do you work out at a certain place, or do you just have a home gym?
I've got a home gym. I like to work out, and when I can, I work at the student center.
Okay.
I just like to. They've got everything you need over there.
Oh yeah,
except for a squat rack, but
yeah,
I think for liability purposes.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I remember a kid in our high school. He was doing overhead squat, snatch grip. He was supposed to have all 95 pounds. He put on 135. Couldn't handle the weight. Dropped it. He on the safety tier, and he got his finger caught.
Oh yeah, they'll take a finger off.
Yeah, took the part of his finger off. They had to stitch it back on.
So the other, I mean, aside from going for walks with my girls and lifting weights, I've been trying to really get into languages, developing language skills.
Mm-hmm.
This last year, I was appointed as the interim international coordinator director for the Robbins College of Business.
Ah, congrats!
Yeah, thank you. And the idea is that we've got relationships all over the world, predominantly with China,
right?
But we've also got agreements with Senegal and Malaysia, and working on one with Bolivia. Agreements
as in?
We want to send students there, they want to send students here, or we just teach online classes. And the students they'll study in their home state of Malaysia or China, and then they'll take online classes from Fort Hays, or in person. We'll send faculty over there. And then they leave their school, they get 2 degrees. They get an American degree, which is highly valuable in the international market. And then they'll get their local degree. So it kind of shows both credentials. And my job is to help develop new relationships. And my background is in sales and marketing. And it's like, let's do this. And so I'm out here kicking over rocks and trying to develop relationships. And the best way to connect with somebody is in their own language.
Right. Okay.
And so I've been working on French and German and relationships in West Africa, and working on one in Luxembourg. So we're just the best thing to do is be able to converse in their own language, and so that's what I'm trying to do is develop. So I've been doing a lot of reading. I got a couple of online tutors I've been working with that have been correcting my pronunciations, and so I've really enjoyed that. That's one of the things about being in isolation is that you have opportunities to you can still access the world through the internet.
Right.
And so I've got all 3 of my daughters on this website to have tutors. They all have their own languages they're learning. And so it's been a great opportunity.
That's awesome. So you said German and French?
German, French, yeah.
Okay, right on. Are any of the language? So I know, of course, I know Spanish. You know Spanish as well, but I know you could kind of break down words in like Italian or Portuguese or any different language or
right.
Latin, I guess.
Sure.
Has that been the same for any of the other languages?
It is when you're reading it, because I can stop and see.
Right.
But not when you're hearing it.
Right.
Particularly with French, because French is not a phonetic language.
Right.
And they generally drop the second half of every word they say. So it's really hard to pick that up when you do it. But there are a lot of cognates between the languages. Mm-hmm. So when I read it, I can kind of get most of what I'm seeing. So my oldest daughter's learning French, middle one's learning Italian, and the youngest one's learning German.
Right on.
Yeah.
Is it? I mean, did they pick, or did you just?
The oldest 2 picked.
Okay.
The youngest one did not. I wanted a language partner, and so I chose her to speak German. I spent 3 years in Germany as a kid, and I knew how it's supposed to sound, and so I started studying it. And for about 2 years, I studied it, and then she turns 2 years old. Mm-hmm. And from the day she's turned 2, I started talking to her 95% everything in German with her.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And she responds to me. If she's really good at listening, she's working on her pronunciation. But anytime she asks me something in German, I give it to her because I want to reward that behavior. For example, the other day, I'm making dinner. She says, "Hey, can I have something to eat?" I was like, "No, I'm making dinner." And this is in perfect German. She says, "Can I have something in the meantime?" And it's like, what do you mean in the meantime? Like, where did you learn that in German? And so, yeah, sure, of course. And so I gave her whatever she's, cookies or whatever. So it's amazing to me that they remember things. They watch cartoons in their language. At first, they didn't like it, but I said, you know what? If you're going to do this language, it's not a 1-year commitment. It's not taking a semester of French in college. This is like, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this.
Right. Repetition.
Yeah.
And then I know a lot of people that, I mean, they used to speak Spanish, I mean, when they were kids, and they just lose it.
Right.
Because they don't. It's just a lack of repetition.
Yeah, in my house, we're constantly telling them, stop speaking English. Do not speak English. Not that we haven't. They get English outside of the house. We're like, this is where you're going to develop your English skills. And so we're constantly trying to get them to switch back, and because they're so used to English being outside, that we don't want them to lose. My wife's got cousins that they can understand it, they can't speak it. Like, I do not want you to lose your Spanish. Spanish is number one, because the English is just going to come to you by being outside and reading books and being in school.
Right.
But don't want to lose the Spanish, because that's the connection that my wife and her family have with the grandkids.
And it's such a critical age too. I mean, I don't know how old your girls are.
I've got a 4-month, 4-year-old, 7 and 9-year-old.
Yeah, still the crucial time. I mean,
yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. So I'm assuming they're going to be their third language.
The
Spanish,
third language,
English.
Right? And we do homeschool, so they're going to get rudimentary understanding of Greek and Latin as well, as the base words. Latin's just such an important language, even for our own language. To understand use of English, you can understand French. Let me give you an example. In Latin, the word to fight is puño.
Puño.
So in Spanish, that means fist. Generally, you make a fist when you want to fight somebody, right?
Yeah.
But if somebody's pugnacious, that means they like to fight. If somebody is impugning my reputation, they're fighting against my reputation. So, even understand the word in Latin for fight, puña or whatever it is. You give when you get to the SAT and you see pugnacious. What does pugnacious mean? Well, I know. I already know the Latin brace.
Right.
So Latin's important. Same with Greek. We have a lot of kind of Greek antecedents in American English, at least.
That kind of reminds me of. Have you ever watched the National Spelling Bee? Do you ever watch?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. So I find it very interesting because they'll ask language of origin. German, this, and that, or whatever, and they have it in their mind. Okay, that means this letter coincides with this letter. So we'll get back to that conversation. Great conversation we're having here, Dr. Lloyd. Catch you in a bit.
Matthew.
Huh? Oh, sorry.
It's okay. I just need you to listen to me.
I know that a lot of times, Mom, it might not seem like I'm listening to you, but I am. I hear you. And what you say really does matter to me.
I mean, let's be honest. No kid likes rules, but I get why we have them. I hear you, and I know it's because you care.
All the talks we've had over the years, including what you've told me about not using alcohol and other drugs, they stick with me. And believe it or not, they really do make a difference, especially at times that matter most.
Hey, want a drink?
No thanks, I'm good. So thank you, Dad, for talking and preparing me for what's ahead.
Thanks, Mom, for never giving up and always being my biggest fan.
Thank you for letting me know what you expect, so I can try to meet your expectations.
Thank you for talking.
For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
We are strong, we are resilient, and we will get through this together. But these are stressful times, and it's important to also practice good self-care. It's normal to feel overwhelmed, anxious, or afraid, but there is hope. Reach out to someone, connect with your friends, stay in touch with your community, and know that you are not alone. Learn more at wearebroadcasters.com/hope, furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Back here with Dr. Lloyd, I was just talking about the National Spelling Bee. I saw a movie. Have you ever seen Aquila and the Bee?
I've not.
Yeah, it's Keke Palmer. She ends up going to the National Spelling Bee, but I found it very fascinating how people, I mean, I don't know, some people are just really smart. Like I was telling you, they would ask for language of origin, then they would spell out a word that has like 17 letters, and I don't get it. Some people have a different mind. There's more Dr. Lloyds in this world, I guess.
Oh, I suppose.
Yeah.
Well, for example, in Italian, like for example, in Spanish, you have the ñ, which is a little hat on top of the N.
Right.
And in Italian, they'd make that a GN, and that sounds like the ñ in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm asking for the word origin, and I know it's Greek, I know kind of the characterization of Greek spelling, which is I'm guessing why they ask for that word of origin. Letters that make diphthongs, or letters that make these kind of combinations.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's important to know the origins, whether it's Germanic, Latin based, whatever it is.
Now, what have you found has been the best, I guess, helper when you're learning another language? Because I mean, I want to pick up another language. That'd be cool.
Yeah, sure. I'll say this: it's possible to master another language.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're always going to make mistakes. It's hard to get to native level because there are so many cultural references in our native use of our language.
Mm-hmm.
For example, there are phrases in English that if I said 9/11, if you're not a native speaker of English and you don't know American culture, 9/11 is just a number, right? Say 9/11 to any American, and they're going to know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
So you can learn those things, but you have to be in the culture. And so what I found the best thing to do is be in the culture.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was learning Spanish, I'd been to South America probably 7 or 8 times before I really got comfortable. I could walk up to a cabbie and ask him for a ride, how much is the fare? Like really be like in the element. And so for me, Colombian culture, Mexican culture are the two that I probably have the most interaction with. So I know more about those cultures than the others. And so being in the culture is important, but you have to be a bulldog about it. You're not going to pick up Spanish by taking 4 years in high school or college.
Right.
You got to say, this is a 5, this is a 10-year commitment, and I'm going to do it, which means I'm going to watch YouTube videos in Spanish. When I get on Netflix, I'm going to find a German television series. Mm-hmm. I'm going to hire a tutor on one of these websites. I'm going to get all the software that I can and really immerse yourself. There's research by Angela Duckworth, and it's called she did research on grit.
Mm-hmm.
She actually studied spelling bee champions. And what she found about grit, and she made a scale of it, the Duckworth grit scale, is that people who like push through things, they didn't just try one thing. So let's say you're terrible at listening, okay? And you just get frustrated. If that's all you did is watch YouTube videos and try and pick up the subtitles, you're not going to be successful. If you're also studying vocabulary and writing down words and talking to native speakers and studying culture, mm-hmm. then you're going to start to get these, all these things are going to start to make sense, and you're going to be able to hear better. And so grit in language learning is the same as in, trying to master spelling bee words. Mm-hmm. You have to find various ways to attack the problem. So what I do is I read. You get to the point where you got to get the basics in the language. Then you got to start reading. Then you got to start talking to natives. And then you got to go to the country. That's about the best way to do it.
Interesting. Yeah. Damn. I've been to Italy. I kind of wanted to pick up Italian. That'd be cool to pick up Italian. Have you been? You've been to Mexico, haven't you?
I've been to Mexico one time.
Where'd you go?
I'm embarrassed to say I've only been to Cancun. Not that there's anything wrong with Cancun, but there is an immense world outside of Cancun.
Yeah.
That I would love to see. I just haven't had the opportunity to. Flew through the Mexico City airport one time, and I wanted to go see Guadalupe. Mm-hmm. And it was like 3 a.m, and the guy's like, "You shouldn't go out in Mexico City at 3 a.m." I was like, "All right."
Fair enough.
So the one, if I had one shot to go to Mexico, it'd be to see Guadalupe. The cathedral, basilica, and also the
what's it called? The
Tilda.
The Juan Diego.
Yeah, Juan Diego. Yeah. Yep. So that would be kind of cool to see.
Now that's very interesting because I remember reading. Of course, I went to private school, kindergarten through 8th grade, Sacred Heart Cathedral in Dodge City, and our religion teacher, 7th and 8th grade. His name was Tony Frasco. He did this presentation to us about the Feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe, and he I don't know if you've heard this, but I guess they did. I don't know. No, I don't want to say an experiment, but they studied the tilde, and they said that the image of Our Lady of Guadalupe, it's floating on the tilde.
Okay.
By I don't know. They said it's floating.
That's right. And they've done scientific experiments on it, and they've also found like small images within the tilde as well, like in the eyes of the Virgin Mary.
Right.
During the Mexican Revolution, they tried to blow it up. That didn't work. It was the only thing that didn't, get destroyed in the church during the 1920s. And actually, Tony Frasco is, I know Tony from previous life. He wrote a book on
Reflection of the Sun.
Reflection of the Sun.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow, small world.
Yeah. Tony and I were we took a class to foster. You got to get qualified to foster. His wife and him and my wife and I were taking classes to foster care.
Interesting.
This is maybe 15 years ago now, but.
Wow, that's
so
really
yeah.
small
Tony's a good guy.
Oh yeah. So he was my religion teacher 7th and 8th grade. So that was a cool thing. It's amazing the many miracles that you find in the Catholic Church.
Right.
Like going to Italy and seeing all some of the incorruptibles.
Right.
Science can't explain that.
That's
it can
right.
explain a body that doesn't deteriorate.
Yeah, the Catholic Church's default position is there has to be a natural explanation for what's going on. That's their default position, and they attack the investigation from that worldview. And once they exhaust all natural explanations, then they'll declare it a miracle. And this takes years, decades sometimes.
Right.
For example, Medjugorje and former Yugoslavia, they're still investigating that. They have not declared that apparition a miracle yet. But, so that's the default position.
Interesting. And I know, I'm trying to think. I think I read something about a host that was bleeding, and they didn't experiment on that, and they found that it was actually it was human flesh, essentially,
right.
What they came out with.
Yeah, Eucharistic apparition or Eucharistic miracles are, to me, the most fascinating, where the host will start bleeding onto
right.
the corporal, which is the piece of cloth that you put underneath the
right.
Eucharistic adoration process. It turns into a piece of flesh, or it starts to bleed, and God does things for certain reasons that we don't know all the time, but they're all over the world. Two of the famous ones in Italy. There was one actually about 5 years ago in Mexico.
In Mexico, what?
I don't remember I think they're still investigating it.
Okay.
But I just remember reading it's like, oh, this is incredible. What surprised me is it doesn't get as much press.
Have you ever heard of? I know you hear a lot of negativity about the Catholic Church,
right?
About priests and just scandals that go on.
Sure.
But you never hear about any of the good things. Well, I guess not that you never, but it seems like they're overshadowed.
It doesn't
by the bad
sell
things.
as many newspapers. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why. I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, my trip to Mexico was limited to Cancun. A friend and I had booked one-way tickets to Costa Rica.
Okay.
And the idea was that I was going to teach him Spanish. He was going to teach me how to surf. And we get all the way back to Mexico via bus and hitchhiking and walking. And we get to Belize, and we got two options. We can go through Mexico to get back to the United States, or we can take a bus to Cancun and fly to Cuba and spend a week in Cuba, because we were trying to figure out the resources that we had. And so we decided to go to Cuba for a week.
Ooh.
So otherwise I would have gone straight through the heart of southern and central Mexico.
So how was I follow this comedian Gabriel Iglesias. Have you ever heard of Gabriel Iglesias?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if you've ever seen his skit about going to
Fluffy.
Fluffy.
Yeah. Fluffy, yeah.
I saw Fluffy when he came to Dodge.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Cool guy. I mean, not that I met him, but he just seemed pretty cool guy. But how was the coffee in Cuba?
Very strong, particularly in almost like in Colombia, where they serve what they call tinto, which is it's almost like a shot.
Yep.
And you don't drink it, and you don't like gulp it like American coffee with like lots of milk and sugar and all that. You sip it, and the idea is that you're going to sit down, you're going to have a conversation, whereas Americans like drive through Starbucks, give it to me, I'm on my way to work. And yeah, the coffee in Cuba was fairly strong. What I found even stronger was the tobacco, in that they had these shops, and you walk in, and it's just like a candy store where you've got all these different species of tobacco, and it's all dried out, and you can order a stogie right there.
Awesome.
So I ordered a stogie just like you would walk into a candy store and give me, some, Pop Rocks and some gummy bears, whatever. And so they roll it up for me, and I'm like, all right, let's go outside. He's like, no, you smoke it here. I'm like, all right. So I smoked this specialized, personalized tobacco, and I had to sit down on the floor. I was like, I took a puff, and like my head started spinning. I was like, oh man, this is not what I was expecting. And the reason is because it wasn't I think it wasn't really ground very finely.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was like tree